I'm Harsh Malhotra. I'm basically from commerce background. I did my Bachelor of Commerce. Then I moved to the cost accountancy course. The reason for my going for the cost accountancy was because I was working at the time, so that was the best option available for me to pursue the higher studies. And after completing my cost accountancy, I moved from the uh, government department to private sector. And I have now total experience of more than 30 years. I have worked majority of my life in the corporate sector, and I started in the corporate sector from the finance commercial, side, and then moved on to commercial legal. And as you keep progressing in the corporate hierarchy, you uh, certainly get in touch with the legal aspect of the various corporate work, be it contracting, be it negotiation, etc., compliances. So it was the some part of legal work was always going to be there in the corporate world. But what actually happened was that I worked in the telecom sector for 15 years. So as the corporate, as the telecom sector in India was very recently liberalized way back in 1995, there was host of regulations were there. Basically, you were any telecom operator was required to comply with a lot of rules and regulation, both with the Department of Telecommunication from the licensing perspective, as well as from the tariff regulator, that is Telecom Regulatory Authority of India. And everything that you want to do has to have the prior approval of the regulator. So that's how the regulatory compliance became part of my job. And as the luck would have it, my company acquired made a acquisition of foreign company which is based in London. And and they had some connection with the local monopoly service provider in India. And it was basically that monopoly company was holding the essential services right, and to protect its own supernormal profit, it was not allowing the easy access to its essential facility. And for that, then I had to start the international arbitration, which was conducted in The Hague. And as given the effort I had put in, even though I did not have the formal legal background or a degree, the management was quite confident and allowed me to, handle that international arbitration single-handedly. So, of course, there were people who, like head of the group, legal head of the group was there to help me and guide me, but it was my baby. And we were quite successful in that litigation. We got whatever relief we wanted from the arbitration, as well as small amount of damages. Although our claim was running into hundreds of millions, but we got tens of millions. But at least we got something. So that is how my on and off brush has been with the law. But at no point of time I had thought about it, doing it formally. Although one of the uh, partner of the foreign law firm which was assisting us in that litigation had suggested that I look at doing law, because given my business, commerce, and commercial background, it would be an ideal combination. But I just brushed it aside, saying that I'm doing whatever law related work is there just to help my business. But subsequently in 2010, I took a break and went to London Business School to do the MBA. And as my intent was to migrate from the commercial legal finance work to general management. And after completing my MBA, I came back to India and joined one of the firm in the infrastructure sector, and as a chief operating officer, and I was appointed as the head of airport business. As the luck would have it, that assignment resulted in a case in which one of our joint venture partner in the airport project had, siphoned the money. So when I started looking into the, that project, I realized that the things were not up to the mark. And when I started probing deeper, I realized that there is a siphoning of money which is happening, and that, to cut the long story short, it resulted in litigation in CLB, forensic audit, criminal complaint, FIR, investigation, and finally the criminal action was taken. People were arrested, and that is how I got more deeply involved in the litigation side on the criminal side. I This was the case in which I first stepped into the police station for official work, and then I first stepped into the courts, criminal court like metropolitan sessions and high court. And because the events were moving at such a fast pace, there was no time to engage a lawyer. So by observing and looking at how the people were, working, or the lawyers were working in the court, and some help from lawyers as well as from the police, I was fortunate that I could, file my intervention applications, appear in the court, argue the matter on my own in metropolitan court, session court, high court. And while this was happening, uh, one of the judge, told me that since I am representing the corporate under the Advocate Act, I cannot be allowed to argue the matter. I have to engage a counsel. And in fact, in that matter, this was a bail cancellation application. I believe that I had a very good chance, and that matter had come up after a lot of time lag. And I literally pleaded to the judge saying that Allah, I agree with your point of view, and I have no right to do it, as you said. But allow me to complete this time, and then henceforth thereafter I will not do it. But he won't relent, and he said he will not allow. That was the day I was very upset, and said I lost a very good opportunity, and I took a decision to formally join the law course and acquire the degree. And before that also, this thought has been crossing my mind, but as we are all busy in our own day-to-day life, so it was just like postponing the inevitable. But this event forced me to take a conscious decision. And as the situation was at that time, that in 2016 when I decided to pursue the law, the government of Maharashtra suddenly changed the rules of the game and introduced a common entrance test. So I appeared in the common entrance test, cleared it. I stood, I think, my rank was 90th in Maharashtra, and that's how I started the course. And last year only I finished the my LLB, and I applied for the Sanat. Since I was working in another company, so I resigned from there and applied for Sanat in sometime in February this year. And the beginning of this month, I got my Sanat. So I have now become the advocate. Now, the after while I was pursuing the LLB, it was again at the back of my mind since I was working at that time also. So one thought was that whether I should, get into legal practice full fledged, or I should continue with my job and do it post retirement. Because currently I'm 53, so in private sector generally the retirement age is 58. So I had another 5 years of corporate life left. But in between, I said that if I want to do it, then better do it now rather than 5 years later, because you don't know what happens in the intervening period. So I decided to take a plunge and I resigned from the company where I was working and joined. So while I was planning for the getting into the practice, one thing which was always coming to my mind was that even if I take the sanad, how do I start the practice? How do I learn the court procedures? Given that I had a little bit of experience of appearing in the courts, I knew that the procedural aspect is quite different from what we learn in the college. So I was doing search on the web for if there is any course available to help me with that. Uh, and I came across the LawSikho, and so initially I was more interested in learning about criminal and civil litigation aspect, and I was about to join, but as we keep postponing the thing, so I had looked at this law sequel sometime last year in August September when I had just finished my LLB, but uh, it was getting postponed, and then I looked at all the other courses which are offered in the under the master access, and I found that over a period of time, I mean over a period of 5 years, you have scope for doing a lot of courses which have practical applications. So, for example, as a individual, I also worked as a secretary of my housing society in Mumbai, and I had done some lot of work on the redevelopment. I got my building redeveloped, and in that connection, I learned a lot about the real estate laws, especially related to redevelopment. So I saw there is a course related to that, and then I have some interest in understanding the cyber laws as well as arbitration law. So when I saw that a lot of these courses of my interest are available in the law Sikho, and it gives you a reasonably long period to complete those courses over a period of 5 years, I thought it is best bet to just join the law, master access rather than doing individual. Although initially I was thinking of joining one just to see, get a feel for it, and then decide whether you want to go for the other courses or not. So that is how I joined Master X. Fantastic. To begin with, I was somebody from your team called me and said that I think it was probably you, and suggested that I enroll for two courses, that is civil litigation and criminal litigation. And I gave my consent and I was enrolled. And but because of my job commitment, I was not able to devote enough time to cope up with both these courses. So after a month or so, I realized that I would not be able to do justice to both the courses at the same time. So and I'm serious about deriving maximum out of these courses. So I didn't want to do it just for the sake of it. So I requested probably you or one of your team member saying that if I can be taken out of the civil litigation, because criminal I was attending all the classes, and although I'm not up to speed on the assignment, but I'm just trying to catch up. So that that support was great. So I was immediately taken out of that course. So currently I'm just focusing on the criminal litigation course. It is there because although I have some, as I said, I had a little bit of background in the criminal side because I had filed applications, intervention applications in the bail application of the accused in my previous employer's case. But still, I found that it has a lot of information as well as insight into the nitty-gritties of the litigation on the criminal side. So I find it really interesting and useful. And on the top of that, I would say the faculty is also very good. She has a lot of practical experience, and when she does the review of the assignment submitted by the student, she explains in detail, where the mistakes are being made and what precaution needs to be taken, how procedurally, I mean, what are the things that you need to make sure that are there so that your application doesn't get stuck in the on the technical objections. And she also shares the actual example or the petitions, of course, removing the names of the parties, etc., to maintain confidentiality. That also helps. So I find it very interesting and very insightful. I would say that it depends on what you want to do. So, if you want to get into litigation, I think this is the best course. The other alternative, when I check with the people whom I know very well, I mean, who are my friends and either running the law firm or doing very well in the litigation. So they told me the usual way to learn the nitty-gritties of litigation is to get yourself associated with the senior counsel. Now, that in my view may be useful for a youngster who has just fresh graduate who has just come out of the college, and if he wants to learn that way, that is one way to learn. Second is if you want to cut short, especially for people like me who would not be able to spend a lot of time to work with the senior to learn the ropes. So the other alternative is this LawSikho course, which I think can be used to as a launch pad. But I mean, I'm attending a lot of other sessions which you keep people keep organizing, and I'm so far whatever sessions I have attended, the faculty people have chosen are excellent, and some of the guest speakers that also you bring are really good and they know the subject. So I'm really happy that I've joined this course.